Have you ever noticed how some people seem unusually strong, but also unusually tired? They don't complain much. They don't ask for help easily. They look calm, mature, even wise beyond their years. But underneath, there's a quiet heaviness. Here's the psychology behind people who endured a lot in childhood. If this feels uncomfortably familiar, stay with me, because this isn't about weakness. It's about adaptation. People who went through emotional neglect, instability, or early responsibility didn't grow up fast by choice. Their nervous system learned to survive, and it shows up in very specific psychological patterns. Let's break it down. They become hyper-aware of other people's emotions. People who endured a lot in childhood often learned one powerful skill early: reading the room. As kids, they had to notice small changes, a tone shift, a facial expression, silence that meant danger. Psychology calls this heightened emotional attunement. It's linked to emotional intelligence, but it's rooted in survival. They learned, if I understand how others feel, I can stay safe. So as adults, they often sense tension before anyone speaks. They know when someone is upset, even if they say, "I'm fine." They pick up on energy, not words. The downside? They often ignore their own emotions while managing everyone else's. They struggle to relax, even during calm moments. Have you ever met someone who feels restless when things are going well? People who endured a lot in childhood often associate calm with unpredictability. When life was unstable, peace never lasted, so their brain learned a pattern. Something bad usually follows quiet. This is a nervous system stuck in high alert. Psychology links this to chronic stress conditioning. Even in safe environments, their body stays ready. They overthink. They scan for problems. They feel guilty for resting, not because they want to, but because their brain learned that vigilance equals survival. They become emotionally independent very early. These are the people who say, "I'll handle it myself." As kids, they learned that relying on others wasn't always safe or consistent, so they adapted by becoming self-sufficient. Psychology calls this avoidant or pseudo-independent coping. They don't like asking for help. They feel uncomfortable being vulnerable. They downplay their own struggles, not because they don't feel deeply, but because they learned early that depending on others could lead to disappointment. Strength became their armor, but armor gets heavy when worn too long. They often feel older than their age. People who endured a lot in childhood are often described as mature, but maturity came from necessity, not choice. They handled adult emotions before they had adult tools. They processed loss, fear, or responsibility too early. Psychologically, this creates an internal age gap. Their emotional core feels old, tired, reflective. They may struggle to feel carefree. They may find small talk exhausting. They often crave depth, meaning, and purpose, because surface-level living doesn't match what they've already seen. They normalize pain and minimize their own experiences. One of the most subtle traits. People who endured a lot in childhood often say things like, "It wasn't that bad. Others had it worse. I'm fine." This is a cognitive bias called comparative minimization. They learned to downplay pain to cope. As kids, acknowledging how hard things were might have felt overwhelming or unsafe, so their mind learned to shrink it. As adults, this shows up as self-invalidation. They struggle to give themselves credit for surviving. They feel guilty for needing support. But psychology is clear. Pain doesn't disappear because someone else had more. Your nervous system remembers what you went through. They crave control, structure, or predictability. Chaos in childhood often leads to control in adulthood. Not controlling people, controlling environments. They like routines, they plan ahead, they get anxious with sudden changes. This is the brain trying to create safety through predictability. Psychology links this to uncertainty avoidance. When life once felt unstable, control becomes comfort. The issue is, life is unpredictable, so these individuals often feel stressed when things don't go as planned. They may blame themselves for outcomes they couldn't control. But beneath it all is a simple truth. They just want to feel safe. They are deeply empathetic, but emotionally guarded. People who endured a lot in childhood often feel deeply for others. They understand pain. They listen without judgment. But when it comes to their own inner world, they keep the door half closed. Psychology explains this as protective vulnerability. They want connection, but fear exposure. They've learned that opening up can lead to hurt, so they share selectively. They test trust slowly. When they love deeply, but it takes time to feel safe enough to do so. This isn't emotional coldness, it's emotional wisdom shaped by experience. So what's the real takeaway? People who endured a lot in childhood aren't broken, they're adapted. Their behaviors make sense when you understand the context. Their strength came from survival. Their sensitivity came from awareness. But here's the important part. What helped you survive doesn't always help you thrive. Healing isn't about erasing the past. It's about teaching your nervous system that the danger is over, that rest is allowed, that support is safe, that you don't have to earn peace through suffering. If this video felt personal, that's not an accident. It means your mind recognized itself. And if you want more psychology that explains human behavior in a way that actually feels real, you know what to do. Subscribe quietly, stay curious, and remember, surviving was the first step. Living fully is the next.